Hello, Lemonation. Good morning, everybody. Thank you for joining us. We have a very big show today. I love that we do live and then people can catch it later, as they often do. But I love the live element of the show and that people are waiting and that you guys are in the chat and you're like, hey, good morning to Andy, Nikki, Doug, Olivia. Don't forget about Haley. Don't forget about Issa as well. So, here we are, and we are going to continue to talk about this story. If you catch, by the way, hit the like and the thumbs up. Serious, first order of business. It's very important to the health of this show, okay? What I like is that we get to talk about these things on many different platforms, including our newsletter, okay? And that is the Lucky Lemon 7 newsletter where we wrote about this. And I'll just read the first little bit, Andy, if you put it up this morning. 7 things you need to know before you start your day. And this is where we're going to go and we're going to talk about it. Daniel is going to join us from Washington a little bit. And I say Nolan Xavier Wells has been dead for 5 days. Sadly, I should have put unfortunately. And the corporate media is just now showing up. And we're going to talk about that in this story, in this broadcast, in this stream, and we're going to talk about it later on as well, because we have been discussing this and talking about it since we found out it happened the 4th of July weekend, especially that Sunday night. We have been talking about it. And then Monday, we went full because remember, I was away, I was out of the country. And then we went full on it on Monday. But where's the mainstream media been? They're just catching up to this. And I hate to criticize them, but for stories that involve, especially black people, missing black people, whatever, they're like, oh, this went away, it was drugs, who knows what it was. And then, the media doesn't cover it, at least not to the extent that they cover others, especially missing white women and even missing white men. They just don't. It's just the truth. Just go check it out. So I have made a promise, a commitment to Ms. Wansley Wells. I've been texting with her. I'm not going to tell you what she said, but I'll tell you what I said. I said I've made a commitment to covering this story because they deserve answers, whatever the outcome is. Whether something nefarious happened, whether it was an accident, whatever it is or whatever it was, transparency needs to, the family, Americans, people are concerned, and it deserves transparency. The media should be accountable. This is why, thank you very much, Peggy McGeary. This is why I talk about media transparency all the time. This is why I'm concerned about the consolidation of media. This is why I'm concerned about the consolidation of conservative media. So for all of you people out there who care, regardless of your ethnicity, especially the black folks, thank you for keeping us streaming, because otherwise these stories may not have been told. I did not see this story getting this much attention until you will ask Daniel, you can ask the interns, you can ask others, the part of our team, until we started doing these stories on this channel, and especially our interview with Ben Crump yesterday. And we would have gotten a response from someone earlier, but we got a response as soon as we found out that Ben Crump was going to represent the family. Ben, come on. Yes, Donald, come on. I need you early in the morning. I got you. The internet is bad. Fine, we'll just run a picture of you. Whatever way we could. So we're continuing to follow this story. As Ben Crump told you yesterday, there is an independent autopsy, obviously an independent investigation, but there's an independent autopsy going on. Get me a Chiron up, please, guys, to let folks know what we're talking about. And we're talking about Nolan Xavier Wells, 18 years old. So I want to talk about this in a way that is productive. And so our show yesterday was extremely productive, but as soon as we found out who was representing the family, Ben came on, we had internet issues, whatever, didn't matter, we were getting it on. And so the autopsy, the independent autopsy, they're flying his body, Ben told us, to Washington, D.C., and then there's an independent autopsy that's happening, and Ben said they should, not 100%, but they should have autopsy results by tomorrow, and of course we're going to bring that to you. But there were some things that were concerning to us that Ben said, and I want to play them, and then we're going to bring in our Washington, D.C. correspondent, Daniel Grimes, to discuss. He's been talking to people about this. But here is Ben Crump from our interview just yesterday with some new information. Are they saying anything? Are they declaring it a homicide? Or they're declaring it accidental? What's the official cause now? And I know that can change, and that's why you're having your own independent
Yeah.
autopsy and investigation.
As far as we know, his mother, Christine, and his father, Elmo, say they haven't gotten any answers. They, have been asked to turn over his cell phone to the Mississippi law enforcement authorities. But even that is troubling to them because they're saying messages that were deleted from his cell phone. So they want to try to dot every I and cross every T and investigate everything. They said it's very improbable that Nolan would not have wanted his cell phone with him if he was going to stay on the island.
There were deleted text messages on his phone. His parents found that. Who found that out?
Now, well, they got his phone, so they're trying to figure out there's deletions on the phone, and they're trying to look at what is that about. There's so many inconsistencies going on, and so we're going to have with our investigators and our associates, we're going to list all the inconsistencies down. We just got onto the case yesterday, so we have been staying up late with the family, talking to friends, talking to people who were there on that 4th of July, trying to piece together what really happened to Nolan Wells, what caused him to be a healthy, young college athlete and then to end up dead, washed up on the shore on Monday morning after 4th of July weekend.
So there you go. And when Ben Crump is on it, you know that they're going to get to the bottom of it. So, Ms. Wellesley, you are in good hands if you're watching this morning. I know that we've been texting, but you're in good hands, and our thoughts and prayers are going out to you. We're not going to let this go until they get answers, no matter what it is, whether it's accidental, whether it's something nefarious went on, whatever it is, we want answers, and we want the media to cover it. Yes, we need answers. Daniel Grimes, our Washington, D.C. correspondent, on the story as well. Daniel, you have been paying attention to what's happening in the news. You're getting updates. But correct me if I'm wrong, I don't remember, I haven't seen the coverage as they do with other people. They're just starting to get on the case in the corporate media.
Don, I hit the pavement in D.C. 2 hours yesterday. And first of all, the amount of people who told me, I don't know what you're talking about. I've never heard of Nolan who, what, Mississippi, what? The amount of people, not just white people, none of the white people I spoke to had heard about the case, but there were black people who I had spoken to who had not heard about the case, people of all races. And I was shocked because this happened over July 4th. We've been covering it, but I think that just goes to show you the dearth in coverage that's happening, not just with Nolan Wells' case, but sadly, when black people go missing, when black bodies are found in mysterious incidences. I just think there's a dearth in media coverage. I mean, I think back to the young white boy who went missing in Barcelona last month. There was wall-to-wall coverage, CNN, MSNBC, Fox News. I mean, this white boy went missing in Barcelona. His body ended up being found, but for 3 to 4 days while he was missing, wall-to-wall coverage. And sadly, as we know, it just doesn't happen when they're black or brown bodies.
Yeah. And again, we're not exaggerating. We're not making this stuff up. It happens. It is happening. And look, we're not the only ones noticing it. Remember, we had the influencer on yesterday who talked about Suzanne Lambert, who talked about, well, can you imagine what this would be like if it were, put up his picture if you can, Andy. Can you imagine if it was reversed and there were, 3 African-American boys and then 1 white kid and the white kid went missing? Can you imagine what the response would be of a white kid missing in the hands or in the proximity, in the company of 3 black men and on an island with mostly, if not all, black people, and the 1 white person went missing?
Don, we don't have to imagine. Think about Austin Metcalf and Carmelo Anthony. Wall-to-wall coverage when that incident happened. Little white boy stabbed, horrible incident. Again, not saying it was right, but when you think about that happened, wall-to-wall coverage. This happened, No one's talking about it. Crickets.
No one's
So
talking about it.
yeah,
Yeah.
we don't have to
But,
imagine.
there are,
Now,
go on. There are people who are aware. Andy, I don't know if you have the thing that I just sent you from Instagram. I want to put it up. It's Jamie Lee Curtis. And Jamie Lee Curtis put this up and she said, the story of Nolan Wells is a reminder that local news matters. Read in full on Substack. And then she, sent it to Kevin Ortega Rojas's Substack. And so, look, we love independent media. We love Substack. We're on Substack. And so Jamie Lee Curtis is caring and understands the importance of journalism, the importance of local journalism, the importance of independent journalism. That's why I keep saying, guys, you need us. I'm not just saying this. Look, let me tell y'all something. I'm not just saying this because, subscribe, whatever, it's better for us. Yeah, it helps us to stay on the air. But as full transparency, and I did an interview yesterday, I could have left CNN and just sat on my ass and did nothing. I'm here because I love covering this. I love bringing these types of stories to the media, not because I love that it happened, but because nobody else is. Very few outlets will do it. And usually it's like black outlets, right? You got to go to the griots of the world, which is great. I love the griot. You have to go to the roots of the world. Those entities are there for a reason, because the coverage in the mainstream, especially for people of color or underserved communities, is just not there. And it is getting worse. Watch what happens when all of these very big conglomerations, which are already owning media companies, when more of them start owning media companies, watch what happens. Watch where the coverage goes. Watch it. You stop getting really concrete, serious, factual information about the administration. And it starts becoming propaganda, which it has been now. I mean, Daniel, you're in mainstream media. You know what I'm talking about. You see, the Paramounts of the world and the Warner Brothers Discoveries of the world and the News Corps of the world. All of these very Disney, very big companies owning the news operations. And what are they going to put up there? Things that they believe are important. And those don't always include stories of Black people and underserved communities.
yeah, that's right, John. And the sad thing is, even when there are Black people who are the reporters or the anchors on the ground, a lot of the times these decisions are made at the top by an overwhelmingly white board. And so, like I said, I was at Spectrum News before this. Every single person in my newsroom was white but me. Every single person, whether they were other reporters or it was wild. So you think about that, all these white people are making decisions, and you could speak up and listen. I will give them their fair share. A lot of people would say, oh, I haven't heard about that. Or, oh, let's wait till we get more information because, we want to make sure we get this story right. But yeah, it's just wild about the Darthan coverage, Don.
Just real quickly before we go, because I know you've been speaking to people, but do you have any update? Because a judge has been speaking out, a judge whose son apparently was there is speaking out about this. Daniel, what have you learned about that?
Yeah, so her name's Ashley Cole. She's the stepmom to one of the kids who's on the boat. And she released a statement. Andy, I know you have that on Facebook. And in that statement, she said, listen, I know that a lot of you are curious about why we deactivated our social media accounts. And we did that because we have 6 small children. And so we want to make sure we protect those children. And we are just nervous about what could come from having our profiles be public. She says that her son did talk to the Jackson County Sheriff's Department and that she went to high school with Nolan's mother. And so she said that she wants an independent, thorough investigation and that her son, the last time he saw Nolan was 3:00 on Saturday, July 4th, that she said the boat left around 4:30 on Saturday. So about an hour and a half between when Nolan was last seen by her son and when the boat left. And she said, listen, I want an independent, thorough investigation. Now, Don, the reason why people are curious and the reason why she had to release that statement is because people are skeptical. We all remember Alec Murdaugh. He was the man, South Carolina, who was a prominent attorney, and the housekeeper in that case had passed away. They said, oh, it was just a tragic incident. Come to find out it was not. And there was a lot of shady things that were able to happen. And he was able to cover it and push it under the rug because of his position in that small town. And so people hear, oh no, there is a prominent judge in this little Mississippi town that is related to one of the kids who was there, who last saw Nolan alive. And people say, well, we have seen this before where Black and brown bodies have died under mysterious circumstances. The prominent white people who have prominent positions in the community have said, oh no, accident, nothing happened here, nothing to see here. And then it took years of investigating to find out, oh no, that wasn't actually the case. It actually was something more serious. And so I think that that's why a lot of people are skeptical. Listen, I'm going to sit here and say, we don't know. I don't know if this woman, or she said she and her husband weren't even there. It was just her son. And we have no indication as this moment to say her son or any of those white children who were with Nolan did anything wrong. As you said, Don, the investigators are still investigating. But what I will also say is that John Ledbetter, who is the sheriff investigating this incident, a lot of people are skeptical about him because he came out and said, we believe this is a drowning. We believe there's no foul play involved. Sir, why are you making any comment when the investigation is still ongoing? And I think that is why people are concerned. Don't say, oh, we believe there's no foul play. Just say nothing. Say we are still investigating. We're going to get to the bottom of this. And that is everything I'm seeing. Every person I talk to, they're concerned by that, Don.
Well, you're so right about that. Why not just say, look, we are investigating and we're going to get to the bottom of this, whatever it is. And I promise to the family and friends and loved ones of Nolan Wells that they will get some transparency and we will not forget about this. We're not going to, it's something like that. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. Why not? Why not do that? And look, as we were discussing this morning in our meeting, it could be an accident. We don't know at this point.
We don't know.
But obviously, there is a public interest, and where there is a public interest, that is what news is. News is about public interest as well.
Well, and what I will say, Don, too, is that
go ahead, Daniel.
Pull out your phone, put it in your calendar tomorrow, 10 a.m. I know that we are trying to get Ben Crump back because, as you said, Don, on Monday.
He said yesterday that he was going to come back and talk
Tuesday,
to us and have the mom. Yeah, go ahead.
Yes, exactly. Yeah, he came on Tuesday, but so on Monday we had people actually were part of the search and rescue efforts. On Monday, we know the state of Mississippi conducted their autopsy. And then we know on Tuesday, Nolan's body was flown here to Washington, D.C. to have an independent, thorough investigation autopsy done. So we know that that's happening. And we, as you said, Crump said on this show, on your show, he's going to come back tomorrow at 10 a.m. We hope it happens. We obviously know he's a very busy man, but hopefully he can come back tomorrow. And after both of these autopsies, provide us some answers.
Yeah. What I was going to say about what was I was going to say something about transparency in the news coverage. Oh, about it being of interest to the people. When I remember when we started covering Trump and also in the first time, the second time, and then leading into the third time, we started covering Trump, and people would say, "Oh, you know what? We need to do a focus group so that we can understand MAGA. We need to understand MAGA. We need to know what's happening with MAGA. That's a group that we don't know about, and that is underserved." You need to have that same attitude when it comes to Black people. Is that maybe you should start doing some focus groups and get your diversity, equity, and inclusion departments back intact, because you're missing out on a story that's not only important to Americans, but it's also important to your bottom line, because Black people buy soap, if you know what I'm talking about. Black people buy medications. Black people buy shoes, or all the things that you are selling on your channel, but also we deserve to have a voice, and we deserve to have the same energy when one of us goes missing or there's something strange about it, as you have with MAGA, where you are over-indexing. I would be like, why are we over-indexing these people? You keep saying we need to understand. What do we need to understand? They're winning. They're in the White House. Like, how much more oxygen can you give them? Well, I just don't think and it's like, you know what? And that is reflective of who you have in positions of power. Look, this story, there's so many facets to this story that it uncovers, and so many angles that we can cover as it relates to this story, Daniel. Look, I know as my long lost orphan child, I rescued you. No, but seriously, I'm just going to be transparent. You're like, yeah, I love what I do, but I also love what you do. And I know where this is going. And I want to work with someone it would be great to work with someone who is of color, understands the moment that we're in. And you said, I just happen to be right now in the middle of contract negotiations and I'm not happy with it because I don't think that they appreciated me. And I said, okay, let's go.
Listen, I will just say this, and this relates to the Nolan Wells case, in that a lot of people are having discussions, Don, about, oh, maybe we shouldn't have an all-white friend group, or we shouldn't trust white people. And let me just say this, Don. I don't like that discussion. Listen, have the racial discussions, but I think to say, oh, then black people shouldn't trust white people, I personally don't like that discussion, because I think there are a lot of good white people who are trying to do the best. And, as a black person, I don't want the actions of one black person to then have everyone say, oh, don't trust black people. So I don't think.
Well, hold on. Let me just, before it goes too far, I don't think you don't like the discussion. You don't like the judgment that's cast that there is, right? That's something that it always has to be a negative, but the discussion is fine. Am I wrong?
Well, you're right, because we don't know. We don't know what happened. And so just like the sheriff shouldn't be out here saying, oh, I believe he drowned and no foul play. Why are you saying that? I think the flip side is, why are people automatically accusing these three white friends of something nefarious when we don't know? And so I think there should be a collective, just get your breath and let's let the facts. Now, again, the pressure should be on. Let's have the pressure stay on the sheriff's department to make sure that we get to the bottom of it. And I think that is the underlying anxiety. I think that is why people are concerned, because, again, we've seen this get swept under the rug. But the way I was going to relate it is that I had all of my white colleagues tell me, oh, they're offering you 3% less than us. I was told by my white colleagues. They were honest. And so I only had that information to go to the higher ups to say, oh, y'all aren't offering me the same. They lied to my face. That's when I heard you, Don, say, oh, yeah, at CNN and at other places, I was paid less than some of my white colleagues. And I went up to you, Don, and I said, wow, your speech resonated with me, because I was just told by all of my white colleagues that they offered me less and they had no rationale to do it. And so there are a lot of good white people out there who do the right things. And that's what I was just trying to say.
Look, I totally understand what you're saying, but I think around this issue, there needs to be urgency around this issue, and not everything is equal. I hate the false equivalence that between, you don't do it when a white person does, you don't do it with a black person. It's not all apples and oranges. And I remember Mark Lamont Hill talking to me about this, and we'd have very deep discussions. He'd come into my office and we talk about it, and he was right, and I was right. We should be having these conversations, but it's not all equal as it relates to race in this country. Just look at the simple facts, at the history of this country. Look at how black people, especially black men, have been treated by white men and white women, because you get white lady tears and you end up in jail. Ask Emmett Till. I'm just saying. Ask Emmett Till's family. But just the history of how black people have been treated in this country, and that we came out of slavery. And then there was Reconstruction. And then when they start to get political power, oh, you got to stop that, right? And then you get the Tulsa riots and all the other riots. You got to tear down the progress in the establishment of black people. And then in a corporate environment and a corporate structure, as we know, right? I'm not talking about all the other things where people who are intimidated by black men on the street and they go to the other side of the street. And, I'm not talking about how they're mistreated in the legal system, about how we're mistreated in the legal system, and about when people say, oh, black people commit all the crime and whatever. And it's like, wait a minute. Don't you understand, too, the people who are exonerated, mostly exonerated for a lot of the things that happen because it turns out to be false, are black people. So this whole idea that something is, there's this sort of equivalence of fairness in a certain sense between blacks and whites in this country, and it must be reported that way. Well, if you do this for a white person, a black person, you got to do this for a white person. It's like, no, I was talking to Tim this morning. He said, well, what happens if it turns out that it's just, it was an accident or whatever? I said, then it's an accident. He goes, and he just talks to me about these things. And are you prepared, he says, for the criticisms that you get? I'm like, yeah, I don't care. And when they say you don't do this for the same thing for a white person, and I would say, in a sense, I don't, because there are so many other people covering it that there isn't the same urgency for me to cover it as it would be for a woman, as it would be for a Palestinian, as it would be for a Latino person, because the things are not always equal. And one of the reasons, not the main reason, one is truth and information, but one of the reasons that I'm here as a Black journalist with this platform is to make sure that those stories are covered. It is not always equal, and that is the reason that we're going hard on this story. One of the reasons is that we're going on, and I think that that is a fair assessment to have.
And Don,
a fair position.
I'm sorry, you, me, and everybody that works on the Don Lemon Show deserves zero criticism. And this is why. We are not out here saying, oh, all those 3 white boys did it. They OJ'd that man. Go ahead and get him, lock them up. If you were out here saying that, Don, I'd be the first one to tell you, wait, Don, let's hold up. Let's see what the facts say. You're not out here saying that, neither am I. So I don't think none of us deserve any criticism. All you're saying is let's get to the bottom. So if what Tim says is true, if that's what happens, if we find out, hey, he actually drowned, and let's make me be very clear, we find this out from the independent autopsy that Ben Crump and the family, because I don't trust the autopsy by the state of Mississippi. I just don't. I'm sorry.
I don't think you should. Yeah. I don't think people should anything. I think you should always get, as they say, get a second opinion.
Yeah. So when Ben Crump comes on tomorrow, and hopefully he has those results of the independent autopsy, and if they say there were no marks, we don't suspect there's no foul play, we believe he actually drowned, and the family accepts that, I am willing, and I know you are as well, Don, to come on and say, all right, case closed. This was tragic. This was horrible. Still sending thoughts and prayers to the family, but glad to know in this incident, there was nothing nefarious that happened. All you, me, and I think all of your viewers are saying is that we want an independent, thorough investigation, because all too often when victims or people look like Nolan, that does not happen. And can I now just say, I actually chatted with someone yesterday who talked to me about, hey, listen, my friend group looks a lot like Nolan's did, and I want you all to hear what he had to say about it. You just moved here, but you know.
Wait, hang on. Can you guys hold on a second? Hold on. Not yet. I'm going to do that in a bit. But so stand by. I want to stay on this subject for just a moment here, because I do think it's important. And I think that, we see in the comments a lot, different points of view, and that's why we have it. And I was just going to text you, Andy, and guys, and say left turn, because we had something planned. I want to hold off on that plan, and I want to open the phone lines, because I think people want to talk about this story. I think there's major interest in this story. So if you're at a certain tier of membership, you have access to our phone lines, and we're going to open them up, and we're going to talk to people. I hope we have the capability to be able to do that today, since we're down one person. Is that possible, Andy?
Yeah, it'll just take a few minutes to open the lines.
Okay. So let's stay on this, and then after this, we'll talk about that, and then I have a message from the mom that I want to tell people. That's why I said hold off on that, and then we'll get to it. I think this is important, and I want to know in the comments how you guys feel about this, because Monique Presley, God, I wish we could find that soundbite from yesterday. She made a very good point yesterday, similarly to what you're saying, Daniel, where she says many people in the African American community, especially those of us who are a little bit older, grew up with sometimes majority white or all white people, especially it depends on where you went to college, depends on where you are in the workplace. It depends on socioeconomics, all kinds of things like that. And those relationships and interactions are not always negative. I mean, look who my husband is. They're not always negative, but there are people who don't have those experiences. People live around people like them. That goes for white people, that goes for black people. And there are black folks out there who think that any relation or interaction with white people is suspicious. Yeah. I understand that as a black person. I also know the reality is that is not always so. But we all have a point of view. We all come to life through a different lens. And that has to do with the bubbles that we're in, the silos that we're in, how black people have been put into neighborhoods, right? Certain neighborhoods that where they had to go in all together because they couldn't live anywhere else. You know what I mean? You couldn't, right? There was redlining. You live here, We're going to live over here. We don't want you there. So we developed a community of all black people. And within that, we tried to come up with ways to better ourselves and did. And then when that happened, we're like, well, we put you over here in these, some people call them ghettos or whatever it is, or these segregated neighborhoods, and you made them great or whatever. And now you have power, political power. Oh, we got to get rid of that as well. So, that's right. I know you want to jump in.
This is personal to me. So I grew up, like I said, town called Winchester, Virginia in the 90s. I was the only black person pretty much until high school. I think then there was maybe 2 or 3 other black people in my graduating class. Very, very, very white. And so anytime we would discuss slavery, the American Revolution, we were talking about Crispus Attucks and the death of any black person, or we're talking about the civil rights movement and Rosa Parks. I had not just my fellow classmates, but teachers look at me and want my perspective automatically. When we're talking about slaves getting beaten, what does Daniel have to say about this? So that was my experience. I went to the University of Virginia, predominantly white institution. I took an African-American studies class. I was 18, my first semester. The professor opens the class. There were 2 white people in the class. He opens it and says, I see there are 2 oppressors in the room. And I said, ooh, and I looked at the white people and I thought, wow, for the first time in my life, I am surrounded by predominantly black people in this African-American studies class. There are 2 white people. When he talks about the white oppressor, I said, ooh, I wonder what they are thinking right now. And I thought was my experience growing up when they would talk about slavery and the whippings of black people and the civil rights movement. And every white person looked at me and wanted my perspective. It was empowering. It was strange. I didn't know how to feel in that moment, Don. But can
I tell you a story there's a story that just happened as when I was away with some people. I went to the conference in France, and it sort of at the end of it was the 4th of July, and it was interesting because I was with a diverse group of people. It was interesting to watch the difference in reactions to the 4th of July, right? Everyone's like, 4th of July, happy 4th of July, 4th of July. And the black people were like different, like our phones weren't lighting up with 4th of July messages. Or they were joking messages like happy colonization day or whatever, there's some truth to it. But Juneteenth, everybody was like, happy Juneteenth, y'all, whatever. And we celebrate it. So in a way we live obviously together, but in 2 different worlds. And then the black folks at the table, we were all sitting for dinner. And the black folks at the table, we started talking about the 4th of July in America and what it meant. And we started talking about the national anthem and, Whitney and black culture and contributing. And Whitney was like, Whitney did it the best. Nobody's ever going to do it, blah, blah, blah. That's that black history right there is history. And then we started singing the black national anthem. And people were looking at us going, what is that? How do you guys know that? We're like, because we were taught it. But that's part of an America that you don't have any understanding about. Look, I'm going to give you a message from Mrs. Walmsley, but it's just something I'm not going to give her confidence away. And then we're going to listen to some folks who you spoke to, and we're going to open the phone lines. There are people waiting. The phone lines are open. I want to know what you guys have to think about it. First, we need to get a word in from our sponsors. Here's something every entrepreneur learns sooner or later. Coming up with the idea usually isn't the hard part. It's everything that comes after. Building the website, processing payments, keeping track of inventory, shipping orders, answering customer emails. One minute you're doing what you love, and the next you're buried in the business of running the business. I know exactly what that's like because that's what building the Don Lemon Show looked like for me. That's why we use Shopify. Shopify powers millions of businesses around the world, including ours. It gives you one place to build your store, manage inventory, improve your product pages with AI-run marketing campaigns, and make checkout incredibly easy for your customers. One place. Now, here's what I've learned. A great idea gets people interested. A great customer experience keeps them coming back. Shopify helps you deliver both. So if you're ready to sell, you are ready for Shopify. Start your free trial today at shopify.com/lemon. That's shopify.com/lemon. Hey, can I ask you something? Why is it completely normal to tell someone you're going to the doctor, but some people still whisper when they say they're going to therapy? Why is that? Well, we've made a lot of progress talking about mental health, but we're not all the way there yet. BetterHelp's 2026 State of Stigma report found that 85% of Americans believe getting mental health support is a smart decision. But 74% also believe society still discourages people from actually getting it. Those two numbers shouldn't both be true, okay? So we tell people to take care of their bodies every day. We should be just as comfortable telling people to take care of their minds. There's no shame in asking for help. In fact, it might be one of the healthiest decisions you ever make. That's where BetterHelp comes in. They match you with a licensed therapist based on your needs. And if it isn't the right fit, switching is simple. More than 6 million people have used BetterHelp, and there are over 30,000 therapists on the platform. Don't let stigma make your decisions for you. Get 10% off of your first month at betterhelp.com/DonLemon. That's betterhelp.com/DonLemon. All right, and thank you so much to our sponsors. So I just want to share this real quickly, and it's similar to what she said. So I don't feel like I'm giving away any confidence. And this is from her. She texted me and she said, "Hello, Mr. Lemon. This is Nolan Wells' mother, Christine Wells Wansley. Thank you so much for your message. We are trying to hang in there. Our lives will never be the same. Nolan was a special soul. His father, siblings, and I are beyond devastated. God truly took his time with creating our son."
Wow.
Hold on. Sorry. As much as it hurts, his father and I are so grateful the Lord chose us as his parents. Again, thank you for your well wishes and condolences. And then I responded to her, and I said, I'm so pleasantly surprised that you responded. Thank you so much. I am honored. I can't tell you how sorry I am. And I just went on to talk about his spirit. And I tried to be light, and I said, I'll just read to you what I said. I'm just going to be transparent here. How sorry I am that you are going through this. I can tell just from the photos the beautiful spirit Nolan had. Smart, athletic, handsome, and an alluring spirit. What the kids call aura or riz. Please take care of yourself. And if there's anything that you need, let me know. If I can help in any way, sending prayers. And Don, she said, God bless you and thank you. You are for the amazing work that you do. And then I sent her a message this morning just saying, Grand Rising. I just wanted you to know that I care, and many others do too. We are not letting this go until you have some answers. Sending prayers, Don. And she said, thank you. I hope we will be able to interview with you. And I said, I hope so too. And then we talked, I said, I'm glad the mainstream media is finally catching up. And we've been following this from the very beginning. And unfortunately, that's how these stories go with Black stories sometimes. And she says, and this is the most important thing. She says, it is unfortunate. And I pray we get honesty and transparency. That's all we want. I appreciate you so much. And that was it. So that's why we're doing this. Sorry, I didn't expect that. That's why we're doing this. And my heart goes out to her. And you have been speaking to people too.
I think I'm still processing, Don, what that text exchange entails, because just the grace and, I mean, wow. The fact that this mother and father, the parents, who are grieving the loss of their child under any circumstances is horrible. Yet alone these circumstances, this mysterious incident where we don't know what happened. We know he was a strong swimmer. We also know there was a current and that area there was not the best. Or even if you were the strongest swimmer, we know that he left with friends, supposedly, but not the friends that he went there with. All of these, the circumstances of this incident, the fact that I imagine that she is lying awake at night thinking what happened to her son. So the fact that she ended that saying all she wants is honesty and transparency. And I think underlying in that, Don, is that all too often, as I've said several times, when someone looks like Nolan, that does not happen. In a place like Mississippi, as we have talked about, sadly, an honest, thorough, independent investigation oftentimes does not happen. And that is why you are so important. Every other independent, I know Joy Reid is covering this, every independent voice that has propelled the mainstream media to take this case on, that pressure, we've got to keep the pressure up, because that is what's going to keep them honest on. That is what's going to keep the investigators making sure that any sort of influence that's on the ground does not permeate the investigation, and that the investigation remains independent, thorough, and we get honest answers. But as you said, I did speak to someone yesterday who just talked about the fact that his friend group looked a lot like Nolan's, and here's what he had to say. You just moved here, but you near your home area, this young man, Nolan Wells, just was found dead after going on vacation with his friends over the July 4th weekend. What are your thoughts?
I think honestly, it's a really messed up situation. I mean, as a person that like has a very diverse group of friends, I think understanding like the way your friend looks, their background, is not necessarily discrimination, but it's more so acknowledgement, right? So it's like, if I am a black person with a group of my white friends, they should understand like what that means. And I think that it was very reckless for, his friends to not really look after him in that way. Anyone who says it's not a racial issue is not understanding the issue at all, So.
And you grew up right near Alabama. So I imagine your friend group is very diverse. What are your thoughts when you see that perspective of, hey, blacks shouldn't be hanging out with whites?
Yeah, so my whole thing is like, I have white friends, but the thing is they understand that I'm a black person, and it doesn't mean they're racist. Like the whole notion of like, oh, I'm colorblind, right? That's kind of ignoring the fact, right? It's like, no, you acknowledge the thing and then you look after, right? So a lot of my white friends, whenever we're going into predominantly white spaces, they look after me because I'm a black person. You know what I mean? So I do think that like the friend group was very reckless in that sense. I know the young man couldn't swim. I know he was going on vacation with them. Like it's just very reckless in my opinion. So yeah.
Anything else to add?
Look after your friends no matter what color they are, and understand like, the spaces in which you bring them in, because you could be putting them in danger. That's a very important thing.
And Don, I just want to reiterate that because we had a discussion with the team yesterday, and
Can you hold on 1 second? I want to clear something up. I'm sorry, Daniel, but I have to. We don't know if he couldn't swim. I mean, I haven't heard that. Ben Crump said that he was a strong athlete and a strong swimmer. I don't know as we get more information, but that is someone we're talking to on the street. And so that is their opinion. Sorry, go ahead, Daniel.
Yeah, no, an important clarification. I'm glad you just said that, Don. But I wanted to just reiterate, because we had this discussion with the producers yesterday, and it was a very gendered conversation around, if you go somewhere with your friends, should you go home together? And all of the women, Nikki and Haley and Olivia, the females in the part of the team said, oh no, if you go somewhere together, you leave together. And me, you, and Andy said, well, I mean, there's been plenty of times in my life where either I've parted from the group or the group's left me, and we're like, oh, you're going to be all right. You've got this.
You know why? You're trying to, hook up.
But not even just that. Not even just in those circumstances where, men are trying to do those sorts of things. There's been plenty of times where, listen, one time I went off to my friends. This is a true story. We were in Provincetown, and all of them were going to go to dinner. I said, listen, y'all, I passed the fudge shop, not a euphemism. I passed the fudge shop, went to go get some Snickers, some fudge, some chocolate-covered pretzels, and then I met up with them later. But it's just a matter of, this happens. And I think oftentimes you can have that blind spot as a male to say, oh, I'm going to be all right. Now, with Nolan, the one thing that just doesn't sit well with me is, listen, I am a 36-year-old man. And you know what I always have on me? My phone. And in this era, as he was an 18-year-old young man, the fact that he didn't have his phone on him, and we know from the judge who just spoke out, she said that her son last saw Nolan at 3:00, 4:30 is when the boat left. So his phone was unaccounted for an hour and a half, and he didn't think to go get it. That is what Again, I don't want to say anything nefarious happened, but that's just what is unsettling to me.
Okay, let's. Since we heard that from that, I want to hear from the callers. Thank you, guys, and please keep it tight because we have a lot of callers, and I want to make sure everyone gets in. Jen Griffin from Tampa, Florida. Hi, Jen.
Good morning, everyone.
Good morning.
I just wanted to say that this is not new. Joy Reid the other night covered several young Black people who have been killed recently. And, this goes back to, Civil War and even prior to that. So please don't think that any of this is new. Black people have been enduring murder for centuries. So, and white people have just lied about it. And we can look at Emmett Till, and we can look at other cases in the recent past. They even burned a cross on my grandparents' lawn. So none of this is new. I just want white people to understand that none of this is new, and this is white terrorism, period. This is white terrorism. Thank you.
Jennifer, thank you. Thank you. And thank you so much, Jennifer. I mean, really, we really appreciate it. And we'll see you tomorrow on the Legend Show.
Yes, I'll be there.
Yes. Okay. I know. We know that. We know Jen Griffin. She's one of our legends. Thank you, Jen. Cecilia Parker is on from Washington, D.C.
Good morning. Don, I found it deplorable that you actually had to say, I'm glad mainstream media is finally catching up. This should have been a top story all along.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know, that's why I just don't watch mainstream media anymore. You are covering this the way it should be covered. And I don't know why it always has to be a black-white thing. I'm getting ready to turn 70, and I was raised in the D.C. area. And it's always been a black thing or a white thing. A black thing or a white thing. I just find it, I don't understand. I was raised around whites, people of all different ethnicities, because my father was retired Army. I'm a 30-year Air Force veteran. I worked on the flight line, just about around all white males. There was some heavy language that was used back then. But I don't know where we stop and draw the line. I just think this is always going to be happening. But I thank God for you in independent media to be covering this. I love you, love your shows, and I'm going to keep following you until times are no more for me. I have more years behind me than I do in front of me. God bless you, and have a wonderful, wonderful day. Bye.
Thank you, Cecilia. I received that and I appreciate it, but you don't know. They're working on a pill to keep us alive longer, and I hope it comes before. I don't know how old you are, ain't my business, but I hope that pill, whatever it is, comes out so that we have much more time with Cecilia on the Don Lemon Show and on this planet. Thank you so much, okay? Okay. Roger Alexander from Clarksville, Tennessee. Good morning.
Good morning. Hi. So I want to try to make this as quick as possible because living in Tennessee, I actually went to high school here as well, even though I am from Jersey originally. I have been in this situation. So most of my friends in high school were white, and I didn't care because that's not how I was raised. I was always raised to, respect people, regardless of what they look like. What I went through in high school, I almost ended up getting expelled because I had a friend that they got to high school. They ended up getting drunk in high school during class hours. And this is my senior year. I'd never been in trouble. Long story short, they tried to get me for drug trafficking because that friend was in my car, but that alcohol was not in my car. Then they tried to throw me out of school. I've never had anything I was a straight and narrow student, wasn't straight A's. I was an athlete as well. But the minute that they thought that I was doing anything nefarious, they wanted to throw me out of school. It's really hard to trust it. To come to find out, even though I was friends with both of them, one of my friends, her father was somebody that was well affiliated with the school board. So I watched one of my friends get thrown completely out of the state and couldn't go to any school in Tennessee. And the other friend got off scot-free.
So Roger, I don't mean to be rude, but do you have a question or a comment that we can, because there are other folks that are waiting. I don't mean to be rude, so I apologize for stepping in on you, but what's your question or your comment?
And I completely understand, and my comment is my heart goes out to that family because I know what it means to see affiliation infiltrate a situation where justice needs to be served properly. So my heart goes out to their family. And thank you, Lemon Nation. I don't mean to take up too much time because I can ramble.
You're not.
My apologies on that. But.
No, but I appreciate it. And your story where you were talking about, there's different tiers of justice depending on where you are socioeconomically and the color of your skin, unfortunately, in this country. So thank you so much. We appreciate Roger. Now we have Christy Sharp, who's on. I don't know where Christy's from, but hi, Virginia. Hi, Christy.
I'm in Richmond, Virginia, and I love calling in, but I just wanted to say two quick things. First, Virginia has just suffered something similar with a 9-year-old boy named King who drowned a couple of weeks ago, and mother facing something similar, having to deal with losing her 9-year-old son. The other thing that I wanted to put out there for Nolan is that I think where we get stuck is that there's a difference between justice and justified when it comes to death. And there is color associated with that. And so we will continue to support the Don Lemon Show because you put a voice out there for all of us, not just when things like this happen, but it brings us together as a community and as a group of people who are all melting pots. We come to you, Don, from every walks of life, and I thank you and Lemon Nation for that.
Christy, thank you. Okay, I really, really appreciate that. That means the world to me. I receive that. And look, you guys, if I ever do something and whatever, I rely on you to correct me. And if you're a part of the elimination, you'll know. We'll turn on a dime. If the nation is interested in something and we're not covering it or they want more of it, that's what we do. That's what we did this morning. Because we had an interview that we were going to air, and I was like, left turn, no, we're sticking with this because people want to know. Okay, let's see. We have, and please keep it short, guys. I think that's it. Christy, Megan from Harrisburg. Hi, Megan.
Hi, Don. I am Miss Pepper with the Wendy Williams picture in the chat. So in case you remember me, I am been a lemon legend for a very long time, and hopefully I'll have the opportunity to be on the show live. I want to thank you first and foremost for taking your time and bringing light to this story. I am a millennial, and so I think it's very important for us to understand that millennials are not blind to the situation of racism and race that's been going on in this country for centuries. I have a Gen Alpha daughter, and the manosphere has really taken over our young men. And we have to have a serious conversation about this, about how they're getting indoctrinated and listening to the Joe Rogans and the podcasts of the world and really honing in on that and then saying, well, I have a Black friend, so that doesn't make me a racist. So I just want to encourage people to really go through their kids' phones, really look at what they're digesting on TikTok and social media, and have a real conversation about friends and sticking around their friends and making sure that they protect not only themselves but their friends as well. Well,
Megan, thank you. I have nothing to add except for thank you for your support and for your words of wisdom. We appreciate it. And we appreciate all of our callers, no matter what tier of membership that you are here. If you want to be able to have more of a voice on this show, you can join the different tiers of our membership that will provide you the opportunity to be able to call in or to be on the Legend Show where you are. If you haven't seen the Legend Show, gosh, I wish we could show. Well, no, people see the Legend Show. It's not a private stream. If you haven't been, if you watch the Legend Show, this too could be you on the screen talking and giving your feedback, your opinion, your point of view. And then we're going to do that, especially tomorrow, because people have a lot to say. There's a lot of madness and a lot of things that are going on. But what I will say is
I thought that was tonight. Are we doing it tonight?
Is it tonight?
Yeah.
Oh, I'm thinking today is Wednesday. That's tonight. I don't know why I said tomorrow. I think I told Jen Griffin that. So tonight, our Legend Show is tonight. So there you go. Can we put the GoFundMe up, please? So they're about $11K off, I'm told, of the $350,000 that they need for the GoFundMe. And so, yes, so there is the page. Go to it. It is in loving memory of Nolan Xavier Wells. And there you go. So go help them out if you can. I know that times are tough, but, if you can give, please do. And so donate to that. The link is pinned to the top of our chat. The link is pinned to the top of our chat. Okay? Oh, boy, Daniel, what a show. What a show. What a world.
A much needed
nice
show.
Work. Yeah, I agree. It was cathartic and I think eye-opening. Thank you, Daniel, for your reporting today. We'll talk after the show for our post-show meeting. Any words before you leave? Are you good?
Just make sure you plug the Substack. We talked about this and a lot of other things on that Substack. So make sure you are subscribed. Make sure if you're subscribed, share it with your friends, your family, because as you said, Don, there are no overlords with the Don Lemon Show. So make sure it is empowered by you, all of the viewers. So we need you to be sharing the Substack, sharing anything that Don does when he goes live. If this moved you, go ahead and share this link on YouTube, Facebook, wherever it was, to make sure other people are hearing this conversation as well.
Okay. Yeah, I agree. Man, this was really emotional for me today, just in full transparency. And also, so it's a Lucky Lemon 7 newsletter. The QR code is up there on your screen. If Andy can put it, there's a QR code. Just go read it. Go check it out today and just subscribe to it, okay? Subscribe to our newsletter because we cover all of these things and some things you don't. Like I said, the first thing I said this morning was Nolan Xavier Wells has been dead for 5 days and corporate media is just now showing up. 18 years old, Ocean Springs, Mississippi, wide receiver, freshman, went to Horn Island July 4th with a group of friends. Friends left. He stayed. Body found Monday in the marsh at the edge of the island. Ben Crump retained. Independent autopsy results expected tomorrow, and the investigation is active. 5 days. A young black man dead on a Mississippi barrier island with unanswered questions about why his friends left without him. The Don Lemon Show and independent media have been on this story since it happened. Corporate media needed 5 days to decide it was worth covering. That's why it's important to support us, okay? And it's important to get this story out. So thank you for that. And also, we must remember what I'm going to say. I was going to say we remember the newsletter and something else that I wanted to say. All right, well, just go to donlemon.com. There was something else that I wanted to promote that we were doing.
The DNL? Your DL and DL?
No, yeah, the DL and DL, but there was something else that I wanted to tell you about. Boy, I can't remember. I'll remember.
Ben Crump tomorrow?
Anyway. Oh, that's it. Ben Crump. Thank you very much. Ben Crump tomorrow. Ben Crump promised on the show. And look, we'll try to hold him to his promise, but he's very busy. But he said he would come back on with the autopsy results and perhaps with the family members to speak to us for the first time. And so we'll see what happens. So thank you, Daniel. Appreciate it. Okay. All right. Look, if you want to know anything about the Don Lemon Show, here you go. You go to donlemon.com. And before it even allows you to open up the main page, tickets for the DL and DL show are right there at the top. You can click it. The link is right there. You click it. There we go. DL and DL, Don Lemon and DL Hughley. Anything goes. Our tour starts September 11th, and it goes all over the country. Also, if you go back out, get your tickets now because they're going to sell out. Also, if you back out, of that, and you go into the page. Our YouTube is it's our main page. Let's just be honest. It's our YouTube. So go there, click on the YouTube, the arrow or the play button at the top, become a subscriber, or send this to someone you know, the link, and have them become a subscriber or a member. Our memberships are extremely reasonable. And if you click out of that, there are other sites like Substack that you can go to, Twitch that you can go to, iHeart Radio, Apple Podcasts, and Spotify. Okay. And so we're all over the place, and our Substack. Click on our Substack so they can see. I think we're still live on the Substack, and I know that we're live on other platforms like Facebook and all that. Are we live on the Substack right now? Yeah, there we are. Okay. So, all right. So thank you guys for your support. Go to donlemon.com, donlemon.com for it all. Did we get the stuff for Brian Tyler Cohen? Brian Tyler Cohen's new book is out. I don't know if we got it. And then he and I next week will be at the 92nd Street Y. We'll get those assets up and we'll promote it a little bit later on. Okay. So be informed without being inundated until we see you back here this evening for our Legend Show at 5 o'clock. I want you to take a breath, as Daniel said, and be informed without being inundated, and turn the TV off. Thanks for watching, everybody. I appreciate you. Make sure you like, subscribe, and turn on notifications so you don't miss anything. We're live weekdays at 10 a.m. and 5 p.m. Eastern with new content at 2 p.m. Eastern, sometimes at 8 p.m. So follow The Don Lemon Show wherever you are: YouTube, TikTok, Instagram, Facebook, Twitch, Substack, Spotify, iHeart Radio, Apple Podcasts. We are everywhere, and we're there every day. And if you want a little more, join the Lemon community. Exclusive posts, behind the scenes, live chats. Just hit join or check the channel pages. All right, I'll see you next time.